Welcome to this episode of R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm Kayla McGowan, Editor-in-Chief, and today we're diving into the noisy world of marketing. My special guest is Ben Ricciardi, founder and CEO of Ironclad Restoration Marketing. Ben's been a pivotal figure in the digital marketing scene for the restoration industry for almost 10 years. We're coming up on that anniversary, right? He is also the author of the No Bullshit Guide to Internet Marketing of Restoration Contractors, a regular contributor to multiple industry publications, our very own R&R's publication, and the host of the Restoration Rundown podcast, which covers everything related to owning a restoration business and then some. So be sure to connect with Ben and Ironclad Restoration Marketing on social media for the latest tips and tricks, but also tune into the R&R's Marketing Minute brought to you by Ironclad Marketing. Please welcome Ben Ricciardi.
Hey, thank you for that amazing introduction. I feel you oversold me. Now I've got a lot of pressure on my shoulders here to perform today. But no, thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm really excited about being here today talking to you, but more so the Ironclad Marketing Minute that we get to revisit and kind of try to help people out and dispel some of the marketing myths that are out there when it comes to digital marketing, because it is an expensive and time-consuming thing that a lot of business owners deal with. So thanks for having me. Thanks for allowing me to come on here and give my spiel, and hopefully we can I can help answer some questions and maybe dispel some of those myths when it comes to digital marketing for restoration contractors.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say there's like that, like we talked about just a moment ago, like that 30,000 overfoot view, right? And then there's like people getting into the weeds. And I think, one of the biggest things is understanding the critical components of developing an effective online presence, right? Because print, digital, partnerships, all of that is part of marketing, but they all require special components on their own, right?
Mhm.
So can you talk about those a little bit, especially when it comes to online presence, right, for those in the industry?
Sure. Yeah, no, and that's a really good question. But I think the genesis of all of this in marketing, and you having a marketing background, I think you'll appreciate this more. I think first and foremost, before you talk about boots on the ground, smiles and candies, digital marketing, whatever, you really have to spend the time identifying who it is that you're marketing to, right? Just in the restoration industry, there's a thousand different people or companies that you're going to be marketing to. So one of the most fundamental aspects that I think a lot of people, I'm guilty of this myself with other businesses that I have, is really not truly figuring out who that person is that you want to sell to, right? Are you working only, do you only want commercial loss? Are you looking for residentials? Are you dealing with housewives or house husbands? Or, are you emergency services only? Are you mold? Are you water? Are you recon? I think that a lot of us out there, entrepreneurs out there, we're really good at a service. We're really good at remediating water damage. We've been in the industry. We know everything in and out about it, but running a business, managing the business, HR, all the different hats that you have to wear aren't your strong suit, right? That's why companies like Ironclad exist to help out with digital marketing. So I think the first thing that you need to do is realize that if you can't see things through the eyes of who you're trying to sell to, you're going to have a hard time selling to them. So that's kind of the genesis of how we typically want to craft a marketing strategy, or we want to call them components, because if you don't have that, you're really watering down any kind of efforts you're doing. So before you build a logo, before you build a website, before you decide to get into bed with an agency to get that stuff visible, you need to talk about who you're trying to market to, and then really try to address that person with everything that you do, whether it's digital or traditional marketing methods, which are, could be mailing stuff, could be trade shows, everything in between there. So I think that's one of the most fundamental things that people miss out on, that I think that it takes some introspection. Even now, even if you've been in business for 10 years, and really kind of like, hey, are we speaking to this person? Are we addressing their fears? Are we solving those problems with our outbound marketing, or our visual brand even? There's a great company out there, the One Tom Plumber. I had an opportunity to interview him recently, Rocky. And I thought it was amazing because they hit the nail on the head. All of their branding is pink, because they realized after spending all this time that their target demographic are 95% women are making those calls, and they wanted to have something that resonated with them to build that trust before they even get that phone call.
Yeah, that is such a key piece of marketing, right? Like you said, before you do anything, your logo actually says who you are, to be
Mhm.
completely honest.
Yeah.
People, and most times people are going to say like, oh, that's a really cool logo. And then that's what makes them kind of dive in to what you do, right? And I think you really hit this well. Before you dive into anything, you have to understand who you're talking to, right? And
Yeah.
not only that, you have to talk to them like they're a person. You
Mhm.
cannot use well, I guess your title of your book says it best, right? The no bullshit approach. You
Yeah.
can't. It's not cookie cutter, not one size fits all here. And if you're in the restoration space, whether it's commercial or it's residential or catastrophe, right? I think there's different messaging for those people. And if you do a little bit of everything, you still have to develop that too. And I think that's
Yeah.
really important for people to understand. I mean, this method of understanding your audience goes into cleaning, inspection, health and safety. I mean, every aspect of what we do and who we are comes down to who are we talking to. So I think that's
Yeah.
extremely important because you can have literally the best strategy in the entire world and it not work
Yeah.
because you don't know who you're talking to, right? And I think that's extremely important to emphasize.
Yeah, I mean, marketing 101 is who, what, and how, right? Who are you talking to? What are you going to say to them that's going to get them to make a buying decision? And then how are you going to say it? So, for my world, I have a little bit of a marketing background, but I'm a contractor. I grew up laying pipe. I mean, I have a site development company, but you realize this stuff kind of early on, and then when you're looking into how to market to people, the how for the purposes of this interview and for Ironclad Restoration Marketing, my digital marketing agency is how is going to be digital means, right? So now we're talking about the components of marketing. Once you develop who it is, all right, well, what are they afraid of? What are their pain points? Commercial property managers and real estate agents and, insurance agents, they're all going to have different things that have caused PTSD in the past, dealing with contractors, dealing with restoration companies or a cleaning company if you're doing that. And if you're trying to sell to them, you need to understand them very well and to be able to address those pain points right off the bat without them having to have a conversation with you. And that's what your visual branding should do. That's how your website should speak. Every piece of content you put out on social media should be speaking to that person in one way or another. And you can get as granular as possible. And I implore you to get as granular as possible because it's just going to help you understand who it is you're dealing with. Your content, your website positioning, all that stuff is relative to who it is you're talking to. Um, Commercial people may not be on Google looking up restoration contractors. And if they are, your website better be sure to speak to them, show off before and after work, show case studies of other commercial work that you've done. And then in turn, your Google business profile should reflect that. All of your social media properties should have posts that are relative to that service that you want to rank for.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important to emphasize is, digital is a whole different world. Let's be
Yes.
real here. The first thing people are going to do is ask Siri, ask Alexa, ask Google.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't tell a clear story of like you said, I also would like to add in the why, right? Why should they choose you, right? That goes to Google reviews, that goes to Yelp reviews, that goes, I
Mhm.
mean, literally your profiles and any footprint that you have, digital print, word of mouth should be just that, the why. Why should they pick you? And I think the how, the when, and all of that does, and the what, right? That all describes to get you to the why. And like you said, maybe commercial side, they're not necessarily going to Google, but if they by chance happen to, at least it would tell the
Yeah.
story that it needs to tell. So,
Yeah, I like to put the Y bucket as the USP or unique sales proposition. I
yeah.
like to put that right under the what. Once you've identified who, the what should encompass the why. The why is a huge part of it. And I appreciate you bringing that up in your USP. It's going to be why should they do business with you versus the competition? And
Yeah.
typically that comes from identifying who it is that you're trying to talk to, right? You've got to build a level of trust no matter what bucket you're trying to get to with somebody, and the what is kind of how you're going to do that by utilizing USPs. What makes you better than the neighbor, and sometimes that's achieved through Google reviews or reviews in general, because you can talk about how great you are until you're blue in the face. I do it a lot, but until other people are talking about you, that's going to give you a little bit more value there and a little bit more perceived authority in that space.
Yeah, I would definitely say too, right? Of course you're going to be your biggest cheerleader no matter what business you're in, and you're going to be, like I said, the biggest cheerleader. But word of mouth and just, seeing the stars next to your business makes the world of a difference because again, you can talk it all up, but you got to tell that story, especially digitally. And
Mhm.
I know you briefly just touched on like social media, but how do you properly leverage social media in a positive way to not only have, visibility, but like great leads, right? We know there's bots out there, there's
Yeah.
spam, all that. How do you navigate that?
So I have some maybe controversial takes on social media. 100%. If you're a business owner, any industry, you should have every one of your social channels that even exist, whether they're your target demographic or not. You should claim them and own them, because I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction first to kind of bring my point back. But one, those are tangible branded assets. So every single person that owns a business should have an exit strategy down the road. I want to sell this business or whatever. We want to get out of it. You can't work till you're 100. So every one of your social channels are super important just to own, right? First and foremost. So if you don't, you might not agree with TikTok or Twitter or Pinterest or any of those things like that. Claim it. Not only are they going to be worth money one day, but two, if you get big, you're eliminating somebody else from stealing your property and claiming this page as their own and maybe doing something nefarious. Um, and three, these are from an SEO perspective, from a technical, nerdy, digital marketing. These are all great backlinks, and backlinks function. And we'll dive into this, I'm sure, through the marketing minute. But just for the purpose of backlinks are just other websites that are referring to your website that have authority, because Google's all about authority. Just like you and I talking, if I was to refer you to somebody to do some sort of service, it would mean a lot more if like five of us did the same thing, right? So Google kind of looks at your stuff the same way. So claim your social media. So that being said, a lot of people try to put the cart before the horse when it comes to social media. Social media is a branding play. Now, I'm speaking specifically towards the restoration world. If you're in the cleaning industry, it's a little different, because you're able to run Facebook ads for cleaning services and discounts and things that are going on. Restoration contractors aren't doing that. What social media does is a branding play. I'm in the game. I know I'm a marketing agency, but at the end of the day, what my job is to do, we're in the visibility game. We're in the real estate game. So our job is to put your brand in as many places as possible at the very top of where people are looking for, right? So social media is one of those places that is important, but you have to remember the why about why you're using social media. A lot of people look at social media as another lead tool, and in some respects, it is. But if you look at it solely as a lead tool, you're going to be kind of disappointed. And especially if you're spending money on somebody managing your social media. People aren't going on Facebook to find someone to clean up flood damage. People aren't going on Facebook in most cases when their kitchen catches on fire. They're not going to log into their Facebook or their Instagram and try to find a restoration contract. No, they're going to go to Google. But what Facebook does is, through consistency, and Facebook, Instagram, I'll kind of lump them all together, through consistent posting of things that are relative to the type of jobs that you want to get, positive reviews, client testimonials, showing off your team, before and afters. What that does is build social proof through this buyer's journey. So once they find you on Google, now, wow, this guy's got a bunch of Facebook posts. Maybe they've been following you on Instagram. Maybe some residential person's following your restoration company. Probably not. But it really creates this ecosystem of properties to where you are not the one talking about yourself the most. You are showing off your work before and after. And it's really just another advertising avenue that you can build a tangible asset of value that it makes your company worth more money down the road. So if you're one of those contractors out there that's paying an agency to manage your social media, but you are not ranking well on organic search from SEO, you're not running LSA or Google ads, you aren't getting reviews for your business, you're wasting your money. And if you are a restoration contractor or a cleaning company is another bucket, which I think we can talk about ad nauseum when it comes to social, because there's much more of opportunities there for carpet cleaning on social media than there is for restoration. But specifically restoration, you are paying somebody to manage your social media. One, you have to provide them the content. So if your excuse is, I don't have time to manage Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, whatever, well, you have to take the time to send them pictures. You have to take the time to send them the context of those pictures and content. You have to take the time to approve the posts that are going up. So at the end of the day, what are you really getting out of that? And the other thing people don't realize about social is it's a two-way street. It's called social media. You need interaction, you need engagement. So one, don't ever buy followers. I know it might look cool to have 5 million followers or whatever, but it does nothing for you. You're basically just showing your content to anybody else. But if you really approach social media with the right mindset, it's super effective. But it's not a direct source of leads, I don't think, for the restoration world. It's something that creates, at Ironclad, we call it the Ironclad omnipresence method. Like, let's put you up everywhere. But directly getting leads, I don't think it's there. What I would say tip wise on social media, I like to use the 3/4 rule. Some people call it the 80/20. In the book, we call it the 80/20, I believe. And by the way, the caveat to the book, there is some bullshit in the book because every time I publish it, Google changes like 6,000 things. So it's a good general guideline, but it's ironic because there is probably some bullshit in there now. We're in the middle of revamping it. So social media wise, so what you need to do: one, claim every single page that you can think of every type of social media channel, whether you agree with it politically or not. There's a good chance that your target demographic doesn't care about your politics. Probably not. They probably don't care.
Yeah.
Two, when you're going to post, the biggest thing about posting, I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to the frequency of posting. Whatever you're going to do, be consistent. So if you're going to post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, infallibly. Like just do that. And three, you want to post content that's relative to the type of work that you want to receive. And you have to walk the line of you cannot always ask for the sale, right? Use value as your entrance. Teach people something. Talk about your company. Talk about maybe a job that you're on that might be difficult, and use video. And if you do that and you're consistent and engage with people, add people that are relative to who your target avatar is or who your target demographic is, you're going to see that success slowly build over time. But if you expect to input this much work, time, and money into social, and you're expecting to get some sort of big ROI out of it, probably not going to happen. So the people out there that don't have strong SEO, aren't running Google ads, and you're spending money with an agency on social, how's that working out for you? Probably not that great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you hit that really well. There's a variety of things, but I think we cannot probably say we've seen some stuff in the space where they didn't purchase or didn't take the 2 seconds to create that social media platform, and now they've got another company with a very
Yeah,
similar name, if not the
yeah,
same name, right? Let's be
yep,
real.
yep.
Um, and it can cause confusion. And the last thing we need is confusion in the space for, let's be honest, our consumers, right? Because they're homeowners generally, even commercial space, it can get confusing, right? That's like if there was another McDonald's, right? Or if there's another Burger King, like
Yep.
we would be, wait, which one is which? I think that's the other thing that we have to realize is if you apply what you do on a day-to-day basis to another industry, it makes that much more sense, right? Because
Mhm.
no way in heck would there be another McDonald's. Let's be real. And you know, taking the time to post consistently, you determine that. It's not determined by, your neighbor next door or this and that. I think everybody has a unique approach, and that's one thing that I stress a lot, and I'm pretty sure you do too. Don't compare yourself to other people. Do
Yeah.
what's best for you and your company and your brand. And social media is just that. It's a brand building way to spread awareness, but you can't spread awareness of who you are without building your brand. And, like you said, don't put the cart before the horse, because if you don't build a brand, then what are you doing, right?
Mhm.
You mentioned SEO. I think that's
Mhm.
extremely important. We know this world of SEO is a dark place in some instances. What role do what role does SEO play in the content area of driving like organic traffic and helping you generate, actually quality leads? Because I think you just
Mhm.
talked about this. Social, you may get leads, but they're not going to be necessarily the quality that you're looking for,
Yeah.
right? Again, bots, people from other countries, just all of these things. I think, the real, true organic traffic driving way. What is that? What does that, entail?
Yeah. So, I mean, gosh, we can go on for hours about SEO. So let's put it into construction terms. If I was going to build a building out of marketing tools, SEO would be the foundation. All right. So SEO, search engine optimization, right? We're going to talk a lot about Google. I always talk about Google because Google, there's a lot of other browsers and search engines out there, but Google has the lion's share of search. 98% of the billions of searches that happen on a monthly basis happen through Google. 98% of internet experiences start on Google. Okay. So Google's what we're going to concentrate on right now. Again, cart before the horse. If you're not great on Google, don't worry about Bing and all these other ones out there because you're dealing with this much of the pie. So SEO is the foundation of any digital marketing plan. If you don't have strong SEO, you're going to have a hard time doing anything. But it gets complicated, right? And SEO becomes a nasty three-letter word to a lot of people because there's a lot of ambiguity with SEO. Rightfully so. Google updates their algorithm thousands of times a year. In 2022, there was 4,800 algorithm updates. That's tough for anybody to keep on top of. I've got a team of 6 that just deal with SEO here at Ironclad Restoration Marketing, and they're almost every month we have multiple hour meetings on, all right, what's coming up, what's changing, what are the trends, just to make sure we're on top of things. And a lot of marketing companies just can't facilitate that. A lot of business owners that do this stuff themselves, that's really hard to keep up with. You end up figuring it out eventually, but that precious time of a couple months when an algorithm update happens and your content might not fit in what they're wanting to do, or worse than that, you're using black hat modalities, like trying to like game their system, they're going to figure it out eventually. So SEO is the most fundamental, crucial part of any digital marketing that you're ever doing. Now I'll take that a step further now of a recent algorithm update. Once Google My Business went from Google My Business to Google Business Profile, the other thing that came with that change is they used to be 2 separate places, right? You had your Google My Business, which is now Google Business Profile, which is directly related to your maps rankings. And then your organic search was right below that on a search engine. Well, now they're kind of together. Your Google Business Profile, maps rankings, all are tied in with your organic search. So if you want to rank organically, and what I mean by that is on a Google search, when you search for something, the first things you see are the ads. Then you're going to see your maps rankings, which is the bread and butter of our industry here. Service industry, any service-based industry, maps is number one. And then you have your organic search. Organic search is free. They're the non-paid listings. I say free, it costs a lot of, but it's still going to take an investment of time and money. So the way that you differentiate each one is organic is the most sustainable, cost beneficial way to market your business, but it takes a very long time. So the way I kind of explain it to people is SEO is a garden, right? And leads are your food that you're going to grow with this garden, right? Digital leads. So SEO is a garden, and then your Google ads, and I say SEO in your maps, are the grocery store. All right. So building a portfolio of relevant keywords that rank your website higher and higher on Google is the name of the game with SEO. And to back up to your question, it's the, again, I can't stress enough, it's the most important thing you could be doing, because when you stop running Google ads, there you go. Goodbye. You've taken your billboard down. When you stop optimizing for a certain keyword, in some regards, it's still there, right? You have an asset that you've built. You've built a portfolio of keywords over time. Now, it's a garden, so it's still going to take an investment of maintenance, and still going to take an investment of softwares and people and things like that to bear fruit. And it's still going to take some time to bear that fruit, but it's something that's going to continuously bear fruit, like planting fruit trees. It's over and over and over. You still have to trim it, and you still have to do things like that. So in the pantheon of the big 3 things you should be doing to get leads for your restoration business before you do anything else is have a verified claimed Google Business Profile that you are actively managing, and we can get into that as well. A strategic search engine optimization program, SEO, to make sure that your website's optimized. And you should be running Google Ads, more specifically LSA, the Google Guarantee Program. We're seeing that being the biggest ROI for people right now, if budget permits. So to build all those things takes different types of things, different softwares, different types of techniques. People, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the blogging and the content that goes on a site, but there's 400 and something ranking factors for SEO. But once you get that stride, it could take 6 months, it could take a year. I've seen stuff take longer than that. I've seen stuff take a few months. It really just depends on your industry, where you are in the world. If you are in Dallas, Texas, that's a much harder battle to get #1 on Google for water damage restoration than it would be in like Ocala, Florida, because it's more rural. But in general, foundation of your building is SEO and Google Business Profile. That's part of it. If SEO is the bricks, your Google Business Profile is the concrete that holds them together, and then your Google Ads, and then social media would be up on top of that as like an add-on to help you continuously be omnipresent or take that omni-channel approach.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, all of those places lead to your website, right? And that is such
Yes.
an important piece. I've never understood how you can get to a website and then you're like, wait, I'm confused. What are they doing? Like,
Ooh,
am I,
yeah, yeah,
that too plays a huge part of how your constructive, foundation and everything works together, because you can have the best foundation in the world and then, you get to the roof and you're like, duh, maybe not.
Mhm.
Um, you touch on something too about, building, nurturing, right? I think
Yep.
that's huge, because sometimes people think that it's a set it and forget it mentality, and it's not, because like
No.
you said, algorithms change. I remember when Google went to, I think it's G4 now, isn't it? When they did that on their
Yeah,
analytics.
last July. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
And
analytics reporting. Yep.
yeah, and everything changed. You can't even pull your reports the same way, stuff that you
No.
had set up before, and you have
Mhm.
to learn all of that. And I think that's really important to talk about. There's some stuff that's just simply out of your control. You can have the best content in the world,
Yeah.
but if you're not tracking your stuff regularly, you can't have the best Google profile or the best SEO
Yep.
or even the best social media, honestly, because I think a lot of times you see people and they go to Google and they try and find who they've seen on social media. And sometimes it's really hard to find and you're not
Mhm.
sure, like, where's the disconnect? And I think we have to look at this thing as a bigger picture. Yes, there are pieces that build that big picture, but you can't have one great spot and then nothing else because then you can't ever see that big picture, right? I like the garden analogy though. I think that's really cool because it's relatable, right? Like if you don't water and you don't, pull the weeds and make sure there's no bugs and all of that, you can't ever get to the grocery store. So if you're not doing that with your strategy, then, where do you end up?
You have to look at it like a garden. I mean, I've seen other people talk about NASCAR racing. I'm not a big NASCAR guy. I like football, but you need leads, right? We'll just say it's food. You need to eat. Your SEO is going to take a long time to grow. You have to toil the soil. You got to plant the seeds. You got to water it. You got to keep the pests out. You've got to constantly maintain it to a certain extent, and then it kind of will bloom on its own. But you still got to get in there every once in a while. Now, Google Ads, it's like going to the grocery store. While you're waiting for that to build, you can go get leads right now, right? You can get them in. You can feed yourself. And a beautiful problem to have is not needing Google Ads, but still running them. So you got to, and you cannot set and forget anything. But if you did anything SEO after a few years, probably a little bit better of a candidate for that. Definitely don't want to set and forget Google Ads. Google Ads is a immensely intimate process, especially if you're paying somebody to manage it. Like if you hired us in, you're talking to us quite a bit. You can waste a lot of money. I've seen people waste $10,000 in a day and not get a single anything out of it, right? You really have to know what you're doing to step into that game. You have to understand what budget is enough, right? Sometimes $1,000 budget, if your leads for a water damage are 300 bucks a piece, you're talking about 3 clicks. That ain't going to do nothing for you, especially if your close rate is like 10%. There's a good chance you're not going to get anything out of that. So you got to really be able to vet out your agency. And it's something you talked about, which is super important. And a lot of this goes back to the kind of the genesis of marketing and how it all works is number one, find out who you're marketing to. Number two, your website has to speak to that person concisely, right? You made a great comment. You could be number one for everything, but if your website doesn't do anything for them, they're going to bounce off the first page. It's like I tell people, it's like printing the best business cards in the world and then leaving them in your truck, never showing them to anybody, and it doesn't say what you do as a business on your business card. So what you want to do is once you identify who, what, where, how, and you get your website up there. When you're talking about websites, you're talking about conversions, right? So how are we going to convert these eyeballs into sales? And we do that by addressing those pain points with our USPs, whether that's 5-star Google reviews displayed on the page, hashing out your services. I have a whole YouTube webinar on website conversion. So if anybody wants to check out the Ironclad Restoration Marketing's YouTube, there's some stuff in there. Shameless plug, I'm going to be speaking at the experience coming up in Punta Gorda, and I'm going to go over a lot of this stuff, but I'm going to talk like the Micro Machines commercial from the 80s where the guy's blah, 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 talking like that because I've only got like an hour to fit like 70 days worth of stuff in. But if that's something you're struggling with, I implore you to get out to the experience and come to my speech. I don't remember the exact day and time off the top of my head, but it is during the experience. Wednesday morning, I think the first day of the experience. So you got to make sure you have those ducks in a row. You have to make sure that your website speaks to that target consumer, and you have to make sure there's so many ins and outs with it when it comes to websites with conversions, your page speed. How fast
Yeah.
does your website load, right? There's a lot of things I talk about business owners putting their heads in the sand, right? Just because you have a website, just because you're paying a marketing agency $3,000 a month to market you, doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're not paying attention, and the data thing that you said is huge, what gets tracked improves. What you measure is going to improve. And making decisions based off the data, your Google Analytics, or your social media impressions, if you're running social media ads, that's the only way you should be making decisions when it comes to marketing. Most people make decisions off emotion,
Yeah.
knee jerk reactions. Hey, I have gotten no calls on LSA this month. I'm leaving, I'm going to another agency. When if they looked at the data, they're like, well, our ad placement is number one. We're number one in Google Maps for every one of our territories, and we're number one on Google organic results for all of our territories. And they never introspect in to say, well, maybe I'm not answering the phone well. Maybe our processes are not good. No, it's got to be the marketing agency. Let's go find another guy that's just going to pick up and do the same thing. So being consistent and really being present, like we do at minimum a monthly marketing recap for our clients, and that's the time to hash this stuff out. We get to teach you and show you everything about your business, but you're busy, right? You don't have time for this marketing recap. Hey, I got a bunch of calls this month. I don't need to talk to you. Well, what happens next month when you don't have any, right? What is your marketing agency doing to remedy that? And if you're not present in these meetings and you're not looking at the data, you don't need to understand Google Analytics. I don't even fully understand every single channel in there because I don't need to. I've got really great experts that work for me that do, but I know the right questions to ask. And I think that's one of the things that I'm doing with the book that we write. This is the third one. I have like 450 YouTube videos, my podcast. Everything I'm doing is to teach the industry how to be better equipped to hire an agency, whether it's us or somebody else, or even doing it themselves. Just knowing what to look for when it comes to that data is super important because the ambiguity of the services that we provide, it's super easy to hide non-performance. Super easy. You could say, oh, you had your analytics are great. You had 950 organic sessions. And if you didn't know what to look for, you'd say, well, how many users was that?
Yeah.
Was that 950 sessions with 5 users? That means 5 people went to my website, 950, or
Yeah.
really knowing the right questions to ask. And at the end of the day, zoom out again, the 30,000 foot view and look at the big picture. The big picture is making sure that you have the visibility and you're converting that visibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you said like a couple of key things there. Let's go back to the call statement that you mentioned, right? Like you could have all of these great things. I think one thing that's really key that some people actually don't know they can utilize is there's analytics on that call button, right? In
Mm-hmm.
in Google. And in my time in a different space, that was one thing. I was in the healthcare space and they had all of these calls but no pickups, right? There it showed like hey, we're doing our job. What's going on the actual interaction side? If you don't answer
Yeah.
the phone, you can't close sales, right?
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest thing. There's a huge web that all connects and they all have to work sound because they all serve a purpose. It's just interesting that you brought up the page views and, users are huge. You could have a lower amount of page views, but you could have so many new users. What's your goal? I think that's the other thing is determining what your goal is because again,
Yep.
nobody can tell you what it is. You determine that yourself. Everybody has a different goal. And it's interesting to see how that all works for everybody. I was going to say you really said something that I pride myself on being in this space is it's not about always getting business. It's about teaching people and helping people, right? Like
Mhm.
the best advice is free. And I think that
Yeah.
most times people don't think about that because we're so busy, our attention span is so short. But that's the beauty of having things like The Experience and other shows in the space because if you can just take that 1 hour of time and sit there with your notepad and digest and ask questions, you may walk away with a great connection that has now turned into a colleague or and I think that's what this is all about at the end of the day. No one has all the answers. We have to rely on one another and this is one space.
Yeah.
Marketing is very intimidating, right? I think
Mhm.
we've all worked in a space where marketing is people think it's the logo, right? Oh, you slap a
Right.
logo on there, man, you've done a great job.
Yeah.
But it's so so much
Yeah.
deeper than that. And
Yeah.
I think you talked about this earlier. Restoration and cleaning have a different approach, right?
Mhm.
We offer services in both space, even inspection, right? There's
Yep.
ways that we offer services to the same audience. However, the way we market is differently.
Sure.
So I want to kind of touch on this just a little bit about utilizing digital marketing correctly
Yep.
and how you convert leads, right? So you said social media is a great space for cleaning. I 100% agree, right? Holidays are coming. That's the time to say, hey, if you get your carpets cleaned before X date, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z,
Yep.
right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. My family's coming. My house is a mess, right? As a consumer. Where restoration, you can't really say, hey, your house might catch on fire. Call me. It's totally a
I
different.
mean, you could, but you're going to get disappointed on the performance of that ad you're spending money on. No, you're right. You said a lot of things out there, and the one thing I want to back up a second and plug something that's super important. One, We'll talk about the experience. Part of the Ironclad Restoration Marketing's omnipresence approach, one of the buckets. So we've got the website, SEO, Google Ads, social media, industry associations and directories and all these things. But the big one is industry associations, right? You need to get involved with trade shows. You need to join your associations like the RIA, IICRC. I mean, you need to get, there's regional down in Florida. We've got, all of these different ones. You need to get involved in all of them and go to these events. Go to the lunch and learns, go everywhere, not just for yourself, but you need to stop looking at your competition as competition, and you need to look at your competition as your peers, where you can learn, either reaffirm that you're on the right track, like say things are down and Ironclad's not getting you the leads that you thought Ironclad was going to get you, and you're able to go to a lunch and learn and talk to 3 or 4 business owners in your territory and say, what's going on with you guys? Like, hey, we were buying leads from 33 Mile and we haven't gotten a single one from them that's worth a crap in a long time. We're doing this and this, and we're just not seeing the volume. And now you can step back and say, instead of saying, Ironclad, you need to figure this out, you're going to say, well, geez, nobody's doing this, and let's get a collaboration together. So not only that, so you can reaffirm whether or not you're on the right track. You can learn something from somebody. And guess what? There's a lot of times when one company's super busy and they need somebody to refer recon to, or they went and did the mold inspection and they need somebody to remediate. And so stop looking at your competition's competition, look at it as peers, go to these events, come to the experience, go to every single conference you can possibly go to and fit in your schedule. It's super important. So for social media, as I mentioned before, I think that, 100%, no matter what industry you're in, have a presence, right? Um, the caveat to that is if you don't have your ducks in a row as far as your Google properties, your visibility, the real places you're getting leads, or you suppose you're getting leads from, once you build your target demographic, social media should be not an afterthought, but you should put more concentration to that. Once that's good, have this all together. For the cleaning companies, it's great because you can run ads. It's seasonal. You're able to offer coupons, just like you said. So if you are a cleaning company and you're utilizing social media, wonderful. What I will say to that too, as well, there's not as big of an ROI for cleaning companies, right? Your ticket for going in and cleaning carpets, residential's probably not as much money as somebody that's coming into a flood damage or a fire. But you should have your digital presence as far as your SEO. You should at least have visibility into maps and SEO, and look at it kind of backwards, where in the restoration world, your SEO, your Google ads, your Google business profile, that's going to give you the biggest ROI, right? That's where your leads are going to come from online. On cleaning company and SEO or social media is like where we show off. The opposite is the fact for the cleaning companies, right? So the cleaning companies, you need to have that baseline. You should be visible and found on a search engine because people are still searching for what you do. But social media is really unique for you because you can show off, but you're able to prevent coupons for the holidays, like you mentioned, seasonal stuff. Snowbird, we're down in Florida. One of our seasons is snowbird seasons down here. So we've got winter, we've got summer and snowbird season, I think. So you're able to put offers out there and run social media ads. Your social media investment is going to go a lot further for you in volume, right? You're able to do that. And people are going to look at cool videos that are targeted to them with a social media ad or a really strategic campaign, and they're apt to use it. We do some marketing for some industries outside of the restoration world, like for instance, pressure cleaning. Amazing
Oh,
for social
another
media
great space.
ads.
Holy
Yeah,
smokes.
we do social media ads for them. It kills it. Like showing off their crew working really hard and cleaning up the house and before and after. That's impactful because it's visually impactful. And that's what the cleaning, space would do. So I find it to be the same. So again, it boils down to no matter what way you're going to go, once you decide what's best for you, consistency is number one. Relative content to who you're posting to, and making sure that you're engaging. It's a two-way street. Build an audience, talk to the audience. It means a lot. Give away information. Teach people how to clean their carpet instead of saying we can clean your carpet. Teach people how to get, a fun one we marketed for is the biohazard cleanup, guys. I mean, talk about visually, like striking when it comes to TikTok and stuff like that. But a lot of the ones that are doing the best work in any industry are teaching people something.
Yeah.
It's the giver's gain mentality. If anybody out there has ever been to a BNI meeting, and I know most people out there probably starting their businesses have gone to one of those networking meetings, that's one of the big things is give the info away. Not everybody's equipped to do it. I know how to change my oil. I can take your vehicle apart and do that, but I don't have time. So I'm going to find somebody that I trust and they're going to do it for me. And the same should go with that. And also you empower yourself with this information as a business owner to make better decisions when you're going to hire somebody to do this stuff. You know the right questions to ask and you know how to hold people accountable.
Yeah. I think one key thing to do what you're talking about is also putting on your consumer hat, right?
Mhm.
What you don't even have to compare this industry. You can use any industry, but what drives you to, interact with that business? And I think pressure washing and cleaning, it's that instant satisfaction of watching that transformation, right?
Sure.
And you're like, oh, if I asked them to come do this right now, they probably could, and it would be the same day, right? And I think that's one of the things that sets the restoration side just a little bit separate, right? Because it takes time. Let's be real here. We're usually coming in when we're having to recon, we're having to
Yeah.
assess. Like there's just a process, right? And I think that too sets the tone for user
Yeah.
experience where you can do things. And I think one way cleaning really supersedes too is like TikTok has clean talk, right? Unfortunately, it's not the best thing, but that's where you can capitalize, right? Like, hey, don't mix ammonia and bleach. Like, that's not a great thing to do. But there was a little trend where they were mixing everything in a toilet bowl. I don't remember if you remember that, but and they're putting Scrub Daddy in there and they're mixing all these chemicals. And I'm like, I know everybody in our space is having a heart attack, but that's where
Yeah.
you as the professional can capitalize and you can do a react or whatever. And I think again, you're teaching, and at the end of the day, we all want to learn. We're a sponge, right?
Yeah.
And so, whatever we can teach, even in the restoration space, assessment, health, and safety, I think we all want to learn, right? That's what drives us to actually end up making a purchase or being loyal, right? A repeat customer, if you will, right? And I think that's where restoration, cleaning,
Yeah.
differentiate a little bit as well, right? So, it's interesting to see how we just talked about a couple of different spaces and they do have similarities, but they're also very
Yep.
different. And I think if anybody's watching and questioning, am I doing it right? I think we gave you some great ideas as to where you need to just take a second maybe and think about, what you're looking at. So we've talked about digital footprint, I guess is really big if you want to call it that. That's a vague bucket, but I guess that's the
Yeah.
best way to go. You talked about getting involved with, your community and
Yes.
associations and all of that. We have to remember how powerful word of mouth is, right?
Hmm.
If someone had a great experience, they're probably going to go leave that review. They're going to go tell Susie next door, hey, Ironclad, they came over here and they actually referred another company because they couldn't help us, but you could
Yeah.
still get a positive review out of that, right? Like, I don't know how many reviews I've seen like that. So and so couldn't help me, but they referred who could. That is just as good as a service review.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. So,
Yeah.
talking about reviews and testimonials, how do you manage those and showcase them efficiently and effectively? Because there is a space where you can overshare and it be a total turnoff for a consumer. So, what's that balance like?
Well, first and foremost, at the end of the day, to back things up, and we're always going to go to this marketing 101 is finding out who you're talking to. But you got to remember, especially in the restoration world, you have to build trust. Okay. People are already dealing with catastrophic property damage in most cases, right? They're pissed. They are displaced. They're depending on what the problem is. We're in hurricane country here, so I've been there. No power for months. I've been there. You have to build trust. So the beautiful thing about being able to control your brand and building your website is you can do that right off the bat by kind of guessing and understanding who it is you're selling to and relative to the service. So Google reviews are the hands down one of the most important things you can do for your business. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, you're building that trust, right? Two, it's a ranking factor. So if you want to rank better on Google, your Google business profile, which is your maps rankings or organic, you got to have those reviews. At the minimum, when you talk about oversharing your reviews, I don't know that I don't know that you need to go out and every single Google review and be like, look what we did and check it out and look at it and make it a Facebook post. But I do think that a few times a month, I'm going to say you made a comment and said, hey, if somebody has a great experience, they're going to leave you a review. And I'm going to kick back on that a little bit. People hate leaving reviews. It's so hard to get somebody to leave a review. And for restoration contractors, I feel horrible because, a lot of times there's different touch points, right? You've got testing or you've got mitigation, then you've got recon. The recon guys, easy, man. I've got a brand new kitchen. Leave us a review. Wow, this kitchen's great. They don't care about the guys that went in there and demoed all their drywall and ripped their floors up. They're pissed at those guys because they took longer than they did and things. So from a business mentality standpoint, part of this process, to go back to the mentality of is managing those expectations right up front, and saying, here's what's going to go. That's what's going to get you those reviews. But people are usually more apt to leave you a review when you did a shitty job, right? So
Yeah.
think about going to a restaurant and you had the best meal of your life. Me, I'm going home to take a nap. If I had a shitty meal or I had bad service, first thing I'm doing is getting on there and yeah, this place sucks.
Yeah,
I'm not going to leave that.
you haven't even left the building, huh?
Yeah, so it's really difficult, but that's also the beauty in reviews because it means that much more, and Google knows that, and that's why they put so much weight on reviews. So from the technical side, Google and Google reviews. Don't worry about all this other crap. Facebook's great. Do them everywhere, right? You should. And there's a lot of third-party services out there. Liftify are awesome if you're working with them. You guarantee you're having a great experience. But there's services that'll help you get these reviews. But at the minimum, you need to be getting them consistently.
Yeah.
Number one, from a technical standpoint, you're going to improve your rankings. You're going to improve the way your business looks. And when you're talking to people that broker restoration businesses that buy and sell them, more reviews equals more money. I don't care if they're 4.3 stars or 5 stars. If there's a business with 350, 4.3 stars, and there's a business with 50, 4.9 stars, the business with 450 is going to be much more attractive to purchase. So don't sacrifice getting a bad review. You should be asking. And a lot of people's rebuttal is, I don't want to get a bad review. I want to make sure it's good. Like, don't sacrifice 50 good reviews for one shitty one, because you're going to get a shitty review. Like, you can't control that. You can't guarantee you're going to make everybody happy, especially in a residential world. God love you. It's very hard to make people happy. So outside of the technical stuff for rankings, if you're spending money, you should be getting reviews. And then from the trust and conversion tactics, right? A Google review is huge for conversion. So what are you going to do when you're looking for a product or service? The first place I'm looking is reviews. Look at Amazon. You're trying to figure out what product to buy on Amazon. You're going to look at the reviews. You're going to read. I always read the lowest ones first, just to see like what's going on. But people are reading them. And as a business owner, one, you need to ask for them. It needs to be as part of your process as it is billing. Like, as important as billing that customer at the end of the job, getting that Google review at the end of the job is just as important, because it's going to allow you to get more work and it's going to snowball. From a conversion standpoint, it helps you build trust. People are going to read those reviews, and they're going to convert that traffic into sales probably more often as long as you have your processes on the phone down and your inboard or onboarding processes down. So you got to ask for the reviews. You got to ask them till you're blue in the face. And it also forces your team to do a good job, especially if you build asking for a review in the process. And this tech is out there. Maybe he's not the best in the world, but he knows that it's part of his job to ask for a review at the end of the day. They may do a little bit better work for you, right? So there's a lot of really good stuff out there. A few things for tips for getting Google reviews. Ask, easy one. You can text them. Your Google business profile will generate a custom link. So it's like a shortened link that you can text, email, whatever way you want to. I've printed flyers with a QR code and hand it to them with a box with, at the end of the job with a pamphlet in there about your company, a pen, a magnet, and a QR code to leave you a review. If you don't ask, you're not going to get them. People are probably not going to leave you one unless you ask. And don't be afraid of getting a bad review. A bad review is a really good opportunity for you to show off your customer service skills, right? Sometimes the bad reviews are fake. Competitors, whatever. That happens. There's a process through Google to get rid of it. They might not get rid of it. Who cares? Bury it in good reviews. But if they do leave you a bad review, respond to it. Handle it right there, just like any other customer service technician. Another review thing, answer every review. Yeah. Every single one. And be consistent with reviews. Back in the day, people would, we talk about this stuff. They'd get hit up every one of their uncles and aunts and cousins. They leave them 25 reviews. And then it's 2 years later, man, you haven't had a review in 2 years. What's going on? Not only does Google wants consistent, everybody did it because it used to be not that important for rankings. Now it is. And it has been for about 4 or 5 years now, but Google wants consistent, recent, relevant reviews. They want that. Customers now, if you look at data, customers are only looking at reviews that are more recent. So at least at the minimum, get one review a month. That's a great place to start. If you can't get one review a month, if you're doing 25 jobs a month and you can't get one good review out of it, you've got bigger problems than not being able to get reviews. So you really need again, it goes back to that process of identifying your target demographic, speaking to them the right way. Maybe you have to ask for a review in a different way. Maybe your approach is off. Maybe you're overdoing it. Now, as far as showing off the reviews, at the minimum, you should have, it's a great USP, have those reviews fed from Google Business Profile to your website. Google Business Profile is another Google property. They like to have that link between the two. And if you're properly managing your Google Business Profile, you're updating it weekly, minimum one time a week with posts and a blog that links to your website. So that's square one. Should have them reviews right there. Your website structure for conversion purposes should never have to have that customer scroll to get the info that they want. So name, clickable phone number, big giant, this is what we do. Here's our reviews. Here's our USP right here. You don't have to scroll, just click the button. And the same thing should be on mobile. Sharing on social media, I think that's dependent on you, dependent on your brand. I definitely agree. Like there's probably a point where you may overshare because if you're, I mean, if you're only posting 3 times a week and 2 of those posts is a Google review, that's what the hell is that doing for anybody? 75% of your post should be teaching somebody something. 25% should be asking for something, which would be check out this great Google review and more so shout out your team. Don't just shout out how great you are. But like, hey, you know what? We want to do a special, maybe there's an idea for a post. There's a special thank you to so-and-so technician. And look at this great review he's gotten. If you need us, call us. We're here. Frozen pipe season's coming for a lot of people in the United States, or if it's not here already. Don't always ask for the sale. Teach people something. So reviews are kind of asking for the sale and showing off, but I think you should show them off. I mean, it's great. And so review wise too, if you're going to get reviews from people and you get them to leave you one, it's really helpful if they leave what the service is that you did in the review.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I'm talking to you and you're my customer, my project managers built a relationship with a homeowner or a property manager, and they can have a candid conversation. Listen, it would really help us out to leave us a review. And if you wouldn't mind, just walk people through what your entire situation was with us. And that person's going to go on. They're going to say, we contacted Ironclad. We had a flood in our kitchen. Man, their texts were on point. They're answering all those pain points. They were here. They were clean. They were clear with their messaging. They managed our expectations. They left our place in a better condition than it was. Then you're able to go on there and be like, listen, this is just what we do. We're so glad that you had a great experience. Please call us if you need anything in the future. And that is a perfect review.
Yeah. And it's humanizing too, right? At the end of the day. And I think you hit on a couple of key points. There's a way to ask tastefully.
Yeah.
Um, and you need to also review that just like you review your analytics and everything like that. That's extremely important because you know, you are right. A lot of people do like to go. I was pissed that and this happened, right?
Yeah.
But I think also too, people deserve their flowers too. And like even adding it into your email signature, adding it to a text, adding it to an
Yes.
email campaign. There's so many ways you can do it properly and professionally. And like I said, tastefully. You don't want somebody to come and call you every day, hey, are you gonna leave a Google review? Like that would get annoying, right? Um, and so I think you said something that really just stuck in my mind because yes, we're in the service industry, but we also have so much to offer. And if you're not providing something like that at least 1 or 2 times a week, and it's really just about you or not shouting at your team, you're doing yourself a disservice. And so, sometimes people are like, where do I start? Well, I think you just gave them a great place to start. Honestly, you gave them a little crash course in this last hour. And I think that that's extremely important for people who may be trying to make that transition to from the agencies, that they're using right now, or they're fresh in this space and you're like, "Ooh, do
Yes.
I do it myself? Do I hire it
Yep.
somebody in-house, or do I go that, agency, route?" And I also think that there's a healthy way to do it too. If you think you need an agency, you can always ask them if they offer training services, right? Some
Sure.
do, some don't, and I think that's extremely important because you cannot expect somebody just to come in and know everything, right? Let's be realistic here. Like you said, you have people who are experts in SEO, social media, all of that, but you know what questions to ask. And I think that's extremely important. It's been a great hour. I can't believe it's been an hour. It's flown by, but I just,
Right.
if you have any last words or advice, as Ben mentioned, he will be at the experience in Punta Gorda. We're going to be there April 8th through the 10th. And in the description, I will drop the day and time he's going to be speaking in case you're interested. Also, be sure to look out for Ironclad Marketing Minute. I think we're going to dive into some of these spaces that we just talked about in very digestible pieces, and you'll be able to ask questions. So I'm looking forward to that and getting it kicked back off. But any last words for everybody in the industry?
Yeah. One, please come out to the experience. I'd love to meet you and chat. I'm going to be bringing a bunch of books. So if you want to come meet me, I'd love to hand you one for free. They are available on Amazon if you want to buy one. You don't want to come see me talk in person, or I've totally made you sick talking today for an hour. But I do want to close on this. If a lot of times, and you hit this, and you got newbies out there, you've got people that have been in bed with agencies. 90% of them aren't happy with what's happening. So if I was going to start a restoration business today, and you asked me, what would you do when it comes to spending money on marketing? Number one, I would have a Google business profile that's verified, and I would be properly maintaining and managing it because it's a free Google property. I'd be updating on it. I'd be getting the hell out of Google reviews. Number two, I would have a website that speaks to my customer, whether we built that or not ourselves, and we would be trying to work on getting that SEO placement in there. But if budget was complete, and then also LSA. LSA is the best return on your investment that you can get right now. It's a great platform through Google. It's a guaranteed program. So you're not spending money on clicks, you're spending money on leads, which is more important, cutting out the middleman of some of these bigger lead generation companies that people are calling off and that don't always perform. So if I had to start my own thing right now, Google Business Profile is super important. That's hands down. And you don't, it doesn't cost you any money. It just costs you some time to learn. So no, I'm here. I'm really excited about the Ironclad Marketing Minute. The one thing I will throw out there is if there's anything you're struggling with your business or an agency and you want it addressed on the Ironclad Marketing Minute, reach out to Kayla and the team at R&R. We're really trying to craft this to make it more personal to you, to where it's not just me talking at you and telling you what you should be doing. I want to answer some questions for you. So if there's anything you're struggling with, please reach out to us. I'm an open book. You can find me at ironcladrestorationmarketing.com. I'm all over every social media channel. Shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to take a look at what you've got going on. I firmly believe in helping people. And through this is why I do the book, the podcast, anything like that. If you haven't found the podcast, it's called The Restoration Rundown. We're streaming nationally, actually across the world. So any streaming platform you can think of, and on YouTube. So if you're struggling with stuff and you're a DIY person, check out Ironclad Restoration Marketing's blog, YouTube, sign up for our email newsletter. Literally everything that we put out there is a value-based content. It's something that we, at our core, first and foremost, is education. And then all that other stuff's going to come into play, and it'll kind of get you put in the right spot, or maybe reaffirm that you're on the right track. It's been a downtime. This year's been weird for everybody in the digital marketing space. A lot of different things have been changing, but I'm seeing some positive growth. Organic search and all that stuff starting to turn around a little bit. So I'm estimating any minute now there's going to be some big release from Google saying, yeah, we've been messing with some stuff for the last few months. So anyways, I appreciate your time. I know it's been a little bit. We only had like 40 minutes pinned, but yeah, I'm looking forward to moving forward with this in the future.
Yeah, it's hard when you have such great conversation, right? I think it's just like that. We can go down into a rabbit hole. And I think
Yeah.
you really did say something that is truly important for us to emphasize, not just in this space, but in life. You know, no question is a bad question. The only
Mhm.
one is the one you don't ask. And chances are that somebody next to you has that same question. And I think, it can be intimidating asking questions, but that's what, the marketing minute is for. That's why we're
Yeah.
collaborating with Ironclad on this, because it's extremely important, in all aspects. And it's only going to take a second of your time to say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Like, we won't name names or anything like that, but we can definitely say, like, this is a question that we're seeing. And I think that's the beauty of this, is you are actually teaching people through your questions as well, right? You
Mhm.
may not know it, but I'm looking forward to bringing those out and teaching everybody. And as always, until next time, we will see you on the next episode of Ask the Expert.